Yours too, huh?
No, I'm live.
Oh no, hold on. I'm gonna just get off y'all Wi-Fi for whatever reason. It doesn't work. So give me a second, please, if y'all don't mind.
Good morning, I'm Brady Borrell with KQKI News, coming to you live from the St. Mary Parish School Board Central Office Complex, where Superintendent Dr. Buffy Feganbush will address concerns and questions regarding the school re-enrollment and the residential attendance zones. We will get underway shortly.
Can you help her, baby?
If you're on our Wi-Fi, I think it's going to block you because that's the school Wi-Fi. So
Well,
you might
yeah.
have to go from your cellular.
Oh, so you can't even get on Wi-Fi.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Danica,
I'm gonna shut
we have a
down
hotspot. We're going to give you
start.
access.
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
Okay, hang on 1 second too. I shut down. I'm gonna restart.
I apologize, y'all.
No problem. And again, we are coming to you live from the St. Mary Parish School Board office, the central office complex, where Superintendent Buffy Feganbush will be addressing the required re-enrollment and residential attendance zones. Some of the local media, they're dealing with some connection issues, which we understand, and we are working with them, helping them out. That way we can work together and get underway.
Is it a blank screen or a full screen?
Mine?
Mine's full screen.
Mine's,
No black and blue.
yeah, no, mine is just up about it.
If you're on our Wi-Fi, I think it's going to block you.
You want to scan it, you want to get in?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you good, Howard?
At the bottom, I have a password.
I see it. I see it. Oh, it's right there.
You can also scan the QR code.
It's always so tiny.
Good morning.
Hey. Hey, Bill, what's up? How you doing?
How you doing?
Good, good. We haven't started. We're about to get started, so you haven't missed anything yet.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna shut down again.
They shut down?
No, I'm gonna.
Okay, Howard, you want to get access to ours? If you want to go get the password from
No,
Brian?
I'm good. I'm just waiting for Danica to get ready and
No
then I'll
problem.
kick back up. But thank you.
And if you're just joining us, we will get underway shortly, as we want to make sure the local media has access so they can get underway as well. We will get underway shortly with Superintendent Buffy Feganbush, who will address concerns and questions regarding the required re-enrollment and residential attendance zones for St. Mary Parish students.
Our enrollment forms are, we are working with someone to translate everything to make sure that it's for the community.
Danica, you up?
Okay, you have a spokesman here though, or no?
Oh, no, I do not, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. Let's just go. I'm gonna just go on my own. So if y'all want to go ahead and just start.
Whenever you're ready. Howard, you good?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, St. Mary Parish. My name is Dr. Buffy Feganbush, and I am the superintendent of St. Mary Parish Public Schools. I've asked people to come this morning so that we can have a conversation about some of the recent press releases that have been given to parents that have gone out in our local media, on our social sites, concerning student re-enrollment for the 24-25 school year. There are some applications that have been shared, and I know that our school administrators and staff have been working very closely with our families to make sure that our families understand the process, but there have been some confusion concerning it, so I did want to just offer maybe some insights this morning and some understanding as to the process and why we are doing the process. So as most people know, St. Mary Parish is involved in a federal desegregation case. That case began in 1965. It is Boudreaux versus St. Mary Parish. And as a result of that, through 1965 to 1975, the St. Mary Parish School Board members at that time worked towards unitary status. It was deemed that they were able to check the boxes necessary to be declared unitary. However, when it went to the district courts, it went in an inactive file, and along with several other districts, those files were revisited in the 80s and then reopened as in the late 2010s. So as a result of that, St. Mary Parish is still obligated. It has been obligated to certain things as part of that federal desegregation case. One of the obligations is student assignment, and as part of student assignment, we have to, in our very best faith effort, make sure that students are attending the attendance zone in which they live. Honestly, this is not an unfair ask. This is something that everyone is supposed to do when attending school. You are to go to an attendance zone, unless, of course, in some districts they'll have an academy or some other transfer programs that are available where students might attend because of a special interest. In St. Mary Parish, our transfers are open for M to M, which is majority to minority students, and also for extreme hardships. Those are really our only two public transfer options that are available. We do have an employee student transfer option that is open to school board employees. To explain that transfer option means that if an employee is working within a feeder system, let's say the employee is working in Centerville and they live outside of Centerville, then that employee is allowed to ask for a transfer option for that year to bring their child with them to the schools. If it was a school system, let's say Morgan City, that has different elementary schools, junior high and high school, that is still one feeder system, and then depending on where the employee works, we determine where the child will be able to go. But that is only open to employees. When we recently sent out the re-enrollment process, we have not done a district re-enrollment process. I really don't remember when. I've been here since 1992, but each year we do require, whenever someone enrolls into a school site or they move, proofs of residency that are required, birth certificates, and legal documents. This is not new. This is something that has always been done. But as part of our obligations, we felt in good faith it was time to do a complete re-enrollment so that we can assure that we are following along the processes that we're supposed to do. As a result of that, honestly, probably 96% of the people are just turning in documents as necessary, and we're going from there. We do have some families that are concerned. Perhaps they are not living in the zone and their children are attending school somewhere else, or there are other reasons, which there are so many of them, it'd be hard to give examples at this point, that are concerned that their children are going to have to go back to the attendance zone in which they live. And I realize that can be a hardship for a family simply because they feel affiliated with a certain school or a certain zone. However, that is what is required for us to do. We have wonderful schools at St. Mary Parish, so I know that regardless of where our children go, they're going to be well taken care of.
Can you explain unitary status, what that means? Or define it, rather?
It's a rather complicated legal, honestly, explanation, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to go too deeply into that. But there are certain green factors in a case such as this where if we are obligated to that green factor by the federal case, then we in good faith have to take certain measures. One of our obligations is student assignment. And so we have to, in good faith, ensure that students are attending the school zone in which they live, and then also ensure that our practices are not allowing children to go to other schools that might further desegregate a school. And so ensuring that our children are going to the right school to begin with is a great first step, because we have true numbers and accuracy in what we're doing.
Speaking of numbers, do you know how many children or how many students this is going to affect, and is that going to affect the numbers at each school?
I do not, which is why we're doing it early. The actual re-enrollment process, we're asking it for be April 3rd to April 30th, so that we have a month for our parents to get the documents in. Some have already begun the process because we have different tryouts going on at school and other things. And so as much as possible, we want to make sure that we do not get families in situations they don't necessarily need to be in, especially our children. So there are some residency checks and things that are happening at this point, but honestly, I couldn't say how many. We will know in April how many kids will be transferring back to a school site, and then our M-to-M, majority to minority transfers, are due May 1st. Again, we don't know how many children may apply for that. We've had a few in the past, not great numbers, and so we want to know that to accurately staff our schools.
And can you explain those terms, majority and minority?
Absolutely, excuse me. So the way that we are looking at majority and minority is in a school site, if there is a racial demographic that is above 50%, then that is considered a majority school. And we do actually have that in documentation. So I can pull that up real quickly, and I think that would be easier for people to have a visual to kind of see what that looks like. On our school board website, if you go to parents and students, you'll see Re-Enrollment 24-25. There's actually a link right there to the case if you're interested in some legal lines, and that is throughout our website. You will see that. The enrollment verification form can be found there. And then also it takes you to our district website for child welfare and attendance, which also has similar information. But for majority and minority, it always takes a second. With the document that
Yeah,
you
it takes a second.
So again, if a certain racial demographic is above 50% in that school, then that's considered a majority. And then the racial demographic that is not, that is considered the minority. So let's say a student, for example, we'll look at B.E. Boudreaux Middle School, which is the first one. B.E. Boudreaux Middle School has a racial demographic of a majority of Black over 50%. So students at BEB are able to then transfer to any school where the minority would be that same demographic. So again, if you are in a school that has a demographic that is over 50%, you can transfer to a school where that same demographic is in the minority in another school.
Okay, so can we go back to that sheet then?
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
Okay, so at Berwick Elementary, not that this would happen, but if I'm a parent of a child in Baldwin, and which is majority Black, and my child is African American, then I'm allowed to transfer him to Berwick Elementary?
Yes, sir, on an M-to-M transfer.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Feganbush, what type of documentation are parents having to provide to prove where their residency is?
Are you concerning M-to-M? Or
No, ma'am, we're just overall.
Do we have any questions about M-to-M?
No, I'm
before
good,
we
I'm
go
sorry.
somewhere else?
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, I did have
I do.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bill.
Yes.
one question. I gather from the material I've seen that if you have a approved majority to minority transfer for this school year, you shouldn't just assume it's going to be active next year. You have to reapply. Is that correct? Or?
We always want people to reapply simply because we want to know where our transfers are each year so that we have documentation of where students are attending. We are going to work with students that once they are in that grade band, they will be able to stay in that grade band and to complete. So example, let's say you enter 7th grade, 8th grade is also something that could apply, not necessarily a different school site for the high school level. So they will let us know where they live and apply each year. But more than likely, there would be no reason why that transfer would not remain.
So I don't understand. So what is the? I think I'm going to use the word pushback,
Okay.
maybe from some community family members, because if I'm allowed to do the transfer, and I'm going to piggyback on Howard's question, an African American student at one school transferring or wanting to transfer to Berwick Elementary, what is different from that than what obviously has been done in the past and the federal government is upset about? I don't understand that.
MDM transfers have been allowed in St. Mary Parish for years.
Right.
There isn't anything different. This is just a different form. The form just lets people know specifically which schools it applies to and which ones it doesn't, and I feel like it just gives a little more information for our parents so they're aware. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a black student going to a white setting. It could be Berwick Elementary students, which are majority white. If they prefer to go to another setting, they may as well. You will see that we have some schools that have no majority race at all because there is no racial demographic that's above 50%. And I know that if people are like me, sometimes you're uncomfortable talking about children in such a way. Because for me, once our children are in our schools, we make sure that all of our children are getting the best education that they can. But this is the legal definition that is being followed, and this is our obligation, and we're happy to do so. And if
so, what are we doing now that is, as far as the federal government is concerned, and as far as you're concerned as superintendent, that needs to be corrected then? That students, let's say it's not white, black, it's, I'm going to say I have a daughter or son who wants to play football, and I want him to go play football let's use that one, at that school, and he's been going to that school. Is that, where's the problem now that we have? Because obviously there's a problem. There's an issue that you want to correct.
For MDM, there is no problem or issue. No, ma'am. This is just a document. A lot of people, maybe it's the first time they've seen the document because it's here, I don't know, or a lot of people are first time because it's the first time it applies to them. Like they've never considered it before. They may not have had children of school age, but there is no problem with this. This is just an offering that we've always offered. We wanted to make a form simply for it, just so that way it was clearer for anyone who used this form instead of a form that may have had the multiple options on it.
So you can use M to M, I'm sorry, Howard. You can use the M to M to transfer, but it sounds as if in the past there have been family members who have been misleading with filling out applications as to their proof of residence. Is that what we're trying to clear up here?
No, ma'am. The proof of residency is not about M2M.
Right. That's exactly right. That's right. It's two different issues.
It's completely, right. Yes. The M2M transfers are just an option.
That's right. Okay.
They're an option.
Okay.
But even for someone applying for an M2M, we still need proof of residency, right, even if you're not going to be living in that school zone. Because we also have children who come into St. Mary Parish from outside of St. Mary Parish, all around us, from Iberia, St. Martin, all the way from Assumption. It's the Stevensville area in particular. We have a lot of students, and we do have an agreement, intergovernmental agreement, for some of those students to go to Morgan City High School. So it's multi-layered. But the MTM is not about their re-enrollment as much as we still have to provide documents showing that you live in St. Mary Parish.
So my son could not play football if I wanted him to go to a school, and he has been going to the school. I'm just going to say he's been the top quarterback. He's a quarterback.
Okay.
And we had him enrolled there because my aunt lived there, and you're saying, yeah, well, this year he can't do that. Is that what we're saying?
If they're enrolled there because their aunt lives there, then they should not have. Then that means documents were perhaps not accurately given.
So that's where the issue is.
And that's where the issue is.
That's what I'm getting to.
We have some documents perhaps that schools have been given, and now that we are asking for re-enrollment documents, things may have changed, people may have moved, and or perhaps, I hate to say this, unfortunately sometimes people falsify the documents, or they're giving documents that may be real documents, like, I pay rent at so-and-so's house, but so-and-so's house is their brother's house and it's a room, and so it's like a piece of paper agreement that they have. And so those are the kinds of things that are coming up right now. It has to be your primary residence. It has to be where your family lives on a regular basis. And it can't be that you are provisionally giving custody of someone so that they can go to a school site.
So no one's going to be grandfathered in then?
Our seniors.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Seniors next year, our 24-25 class will be grandfathered in, and they already have been.
Okay.
What type of documentation do they, because I did see a video from a principal that had posted, actually at my child's school, showing the different types, different layers.
It's in multiple places. We've sent links to every school family so they can get, did you receive the link as as well. Did you
I
see the
believe
J
so.
text? Correct?
No, I
So-
didn't. I'm sorry. I think my wife
Your
did.
wife
But
did.
yeah, sure.
But every school family has received J communication about that through
Okay.
our system. It has put out on media, it's on our website. The documents have been up for some time. If you can see here, documents vary depending whether you're a homeowner or renter. And if you do not have an established residence, then there are other also documents that will be required. And they will turn in those documents. If those documents are not acceptable, or if there's some concerns or questions, then we do send SROs to the home sites to be visited.
Question for you, as far as the M2M, let's look at it the other way around. We've talked about black students, but what about, especially, we'll use Franklin and Berwick, because
Okay.
we know that there are also majority white versus majority
Correct.
black. So it's, you may have, let's say, a white student who wants to go to Berwick. Does that further, because I know
A
that.
white student that wants to go to Berwick?
I
they
mean,
can have-
from Franklin to Berwick. Can
No,
that happen
that
in that
cannot
way?
happen.
Okay.
It can only be the majority racial demographic, and again, those are not my guidelines, those are the
Okay.
guidelines that are set up in all MTM transfers.
Is this
Okay.
something that's going to have to re-enroll every year now, from now on? The students?
Most districts do.
Yeah,
You
okay.
provide 2 proofs of residency, like I said earlier.
Right.
There's a much larger district that I worked in before
Sure.
with over 32,000 kids, and they
Right.
require them to do it.
So technically, it's minority to majority, not necessarily majority to minority.
No, ma'am, it's majority to minority.
Okay.
The majority race of that school.
Okay. Okay. I just needed to understand, so it can't be the way that I'm presenting it.
Yes, majority means that in any race demographic in that school that is over 50%.
Okay.
What if someone, let's say your central office staff
Yes.
members, do they have a choice of where their children can attend school if they work here?
In the Centerville area.
Okay, they have to do it in the Centerville area.
Yes,
In the
sir.
Centerville area only.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Now, years ago, Dr. Feganbush, Berwick High School was either assigned, I don't know, was the gifted school. So if I had a child,
That hasn't been in place since like 1990.
This one, or the majority?
Yes.
This one.
Trying to think of my own children. That hasn't been in place probably since the late 1990s.
so if a child is,
We don't have that anymore.
okay.
That hasn't been in place again since
Okay. All right,
1990
good.
something. Yeah.
Because I know of instances that Danica referred to a few minutes ago, and I wondered, why is that child from Franklin, a white child going to Berwick or whatever, and they said, well, because my child is in the gifted program. And so the
That hasn't
gifted,
been in place for
okay.
probably 20
So
plus
all
years.
schools have the gifted program. I mean, if my child is
Yes,
gifted.
we have talented art, gifted, all of that in every school site.
Okay.
Actually, our current Student of the Year for St. Mary Parish and a finalist for the Louisiana Student of the Year, he is from Edward Boudreaux and participates in every gifted, talented, any kind of program you can think of. He's a very well-rounded and amazing young man. But yes, ma'am, those are in every school site. We actually have our Arts Jam this evening for our high school students, if anyone's interested, at the Franklin Theater, and our elementary kids have their Arts Jam for gifted and talented Monday night. So, and students from across the district were represented.
The big desegregation case, has it been signed? Was it ever signed?
By the courts, it was never stamped. And it wasn't just for us. St. Martin was like that. There were many districts where it was placed on an inactive docket instead of being finalized and basically given a number and said complete. And so it was discovered that those inactive documents were reactivated, and people still went to say, do we have our unitary status? Are we declared? And at that time, then those cases were reactivated.
Okay, I have some of our viewers commenting and asking questions. Someone has said, what if they cannot get a notarized lease agreement? Let's say their landlord lives out of state. And someone also asked, why are you not taking the doctor recommendation anymore as part of this transfer? Can you allude to that?
Yes, because that is not one of our allowable acceptance
Okay.
transfer forms.
Okay.
We are allowed an MTM transfer. We do have extreme hardships, and those are extreme. That means it's very unique to that individual child, that it is a hardship that is unusual and rare, and there's documentation for that on the site. We, we would have some people an allergy, so and I'm not saying that allergies are not real, I'm just saying that, you know, in South Louisiana, a lot of us suffer from that. So that would not be a unique situation, and all of our schools have safe and healthy air quality. So there's not one school that would be
Safer than
prominent over another
Right.
for that situations. It's,
Right. And then
What
the
about
notarized
students-
lease agreements.
I'm sorry.
The notarized lease agreements, if someone cannot receive one from a landlord, let's say that lives out of
I
state.
feel like that's a very rare circumstance and probably something that would need to go through our office to really determine what that situation is.
Sure.
I don't want to just put out blanket statements right now and then
Right.
be misconstrued. When we have very specific and unusual situations, those do go through child welfare and attendance and our assistant superintendent, Dr. Rachel Sanders, and they are working diligently. I can tell you that many hours are spent, you know, making sure, because we do have everyday school stuff to do too, you know. We want to make sure our children are getting the best education possible and they're safe and healthy. And that is a concern of mine at this point. I do ask the parents who are perhaps not giving legitimate documents, and as a result of that, our SROs are going out and doing home visits. That's a concern for me because we're taking resources from our school sites when we should have those resources on our school campuses, making sure our children are safe, because that's the purpose of the SRO. But it is their responsibility, and they have that legal right to go and, you know, and ask some of the questions as a representative for us. So I do want people to think about, I understand their passion for whatever reason that they're trying to do, maybe some of the things that they're doing, but there are always ripple effects to what's happening, taking resources from our school sites, taking resources from our district office personnel who perhaps would focus on something else at that time. And, you know, we live in St. Mary Parish. Let's be honest. People have been living next to people for years. People know where people live. And we are not going out and actively seeking. We don't have to. There are many people giving information of so-and-so doesn't live here or so-and-so doesn't live there. And so we are obligated, once we receive that information, to do an investigation. And so you can imagine that it's taking quite a lot of time, but we do that. And we're hoping that through this first round of this, you know, kind of overall re-enrollment, from now on, providing those 2 proofs of residency, it's going to be so much easier.
Will this affect students who are you know, who want to play sports, who want to be in JROTC? Because as I understand it, not all schools provide JROTC. So if a child has to go to a school now and it's in his or her attendance zone, and they're not able to, you know, partake in some of the either academics or athletics or extracurricular activities because it's not offered at their school, how does that affect those students?
We already offer opportunities for people to go to school sites that don't have some of the programs, and vice versa. For example, we have certain sites that have welding, and the other sites might have carpentry. And then some sites have JROTC and some sites do not. We do daily transportation routes across the district so that students can have opportunities wherever we have the programming. Because of a small district, it's not always feasible to offer a program at every single site. But we do have pockets of programs, so that way travel time is cut down for all our students. The students are already participating. We have buses that go to SLCC, you know, for machinists every day. So that's an ongoing thing that maybe people don't realize, that we have daily transportation routes already.
I didn't know that either.
Yes, sir.
I've got another question, because we have a lot of listeners that live in Jeanerette. Those that live in Jeanerette that want to go to Franklin High, I mean, they just won the state championship. So there's going to be some kids in the Jeanerette area that maybe are thinking, well, maybe, you know, I need to switch.
We have a certain little piece of Jeanerette, you know, that is zoned for St. Mary Parish because of long-standing agreements. And those students, we know where those addresses are, and they've already been zoned in our system, so they pop up as part of our system.
But what about, you know, someone that lives closer to the New Iberia side of Jeanerette?
Yep, that's where they need to go to school.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
another comment that someone made, so current students or children of St. Mary Parish school teachers,
Correct.
let's say that they're attending another school outside of the area where their parent teaches.
That was adjusted last year.
Okay.
And we continue to adjust.
Okay, so, and either go to the area where, attend the area where their parent teaches, or to their residential attendance zone?
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha.
That's correct. Again, we're not requiring children to move right now either. That just would be, I don't know, it's just wrong. So if we're finding out that there's misinformation, we're allowing children to finish their school year where they are. This change or move is not going to occur until next year for the 24-25 school year. But we do need to make decisions, and some of our decisions we'll be working through June, trying to figure out, because there are so many cases. But we need to make sure in August 1 that we kind of know where our kids are going to be for that first day of school on the 7th. We have to have staffing correct. We have to be able to offer the programs we need. So it impacts so many things,
And what
That's
about
why we're doing it early.
Busing, I mean, that I'm sure that's really going to be really greatly impacted.
It could be. As far as in what way, though?
Having buses travel back and forth, especially meeting deadlines to make sure that kids are on time, especially if they qualify for the majority to minority.
Those will be the students. Our requestees for MTM would be the ones who I think would be most impacted for transportation. Everyone else, our transportation routes are pretty consistently the same. It would just change maybe numbers on a bus, which would make us have to consider, do we need a secondary route or something?
Right.
But as far as transportation from site to site, or if someone's on an M2M, yes, that will change that route. But we won't know that. And that's, again, why we have some of the dates set that we do. Right now that there's a bus driver shortage across the country. And so we're going to have to be very strategic in how we approach and plan for what's best for all of our kids.
Dr. Feganbush, Dr. Feganbush, let me ask you this. We have seen a decline in the student enrollment in St. Mary Parish throughout the years. Are you fearful that, and in enforcing this policy that may have been lax in the past, are you fearful that in enforcing this that there may be a decline in enrollment?
I think there's always that concern, particularly as we have lost children pretty much annually. Not necessarily as a result, it's not a school district concern, it's a St. Mary Parish population decline concern. We are aging, and we do not have the birth rates that we used to in our area. I mean, that's a given. I think that's something all of our communities have talked about together. But yes, I do. I am concerned that we may lose some of our children. And again, I would hate that, because our children will have opportunities no matter where they are. And that is the promise, and that is what we do. It's what we're supposed to do. So I hope they give us a chance to show them that this is going to be okay. If you are someone who has to move a school site, it's going to be okay. And, parents have the opportunity to rent, own, etc. in any part of St. Mary Parish. I invite our Generette people. We have wonderful property over in the Baldwin area. If they would love, or Franklin area, if they wanted to come and go to school there, to come and engage in our community in St. Mary Parish, should be a part of who we are all the time.
To clarify Tanika's question about busing, so let's say a student from Franklin, and they qualify for the M2M.
Or Berwick.
Or Berwick, yes.
I hate that we keep consistently saying certain things.
Well, we're on this end of the parish.
So many things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Maybe it's because they won the state championship. I don't know. But anyway, so if a student qualifies to transfer from Franklin to Berwick or vice versa, will transportation be provided for those students? Okay.
Yes, it is.
And
that's actually in the form as well.
And this is an athletic question. So if I'm an athlete at Patterson High School but want to transfer to Franklin High School, what are my chances of being able to do that?
Well, Patterson High School does not have a majority, so that would not happen. The Patterson schools in general don't. But let's say you are a Berwick student and you want to go to Franklin or West St. Mary, then what the LHSAA recognizes desegregation considerations as legitimate. So that's a legitimate. If you are a student who goes back to your attendance zone, you are always eligible in your attendance zone according to LHSAA.
Listen, you refer to Patterson as a general dome. That means what demographically?
That they do not have any racial demographic above 50%.
So the
Is
schools
that why
that,
they're not listed on the?
Yes, you'll see no majority race, for example, Hattie Watts, Oakland,
Well, why is Patterson not there?
Patterson High
because
School.
they do not have a race that's a racial demographic above 50%.
They're there.
Yeah, they're on the other side.
They're on the other side, huh?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so, thinking about, our obligations, we do not impact schools that currently are not desegregated according to, certain rules. So that's what the M2M stands for. And again, that is a federal and legal thing. This is not a St. Mary Parish determination or something that we're choosing to do on a whim. This is something that we need to do.
Yes,
And we are.
and I get it. I mean, you got to understand why the shock is here. It's 2024, and something you said it's been done, but it's getting light here. We're starting to see it's coming to light now, and I think it's something new. And just to be perfectly honest, I don't think a lot of people are very good with change. And so I think that's the reason why it has caused such a stir in the community. So even though this is normal, it happens all over the state, I just don't think people are ready yet. And how long do you think that they will be? They'll get on the board. I mean, they have no choice because there is a deadline.
I think once something becomes understood as the norm, then it's okay. And I appreciate what you said, that they weren't ready yet, or it's a shock. But I say this comment with my husband all the time: are we ever really going to be ready? If we wait till we think we're ready, are we ready? Or did we miss an opportunity before when we could have done something? And I think many people have those conversations. If you wait till you think you're ready, you're never going to do it. So we're ready. We've been doing this. I hope that people can see what we're trying to do is be as very transparent as we can in our practices. And so we have simplified our forms to certain things, and we are putting it out there. And I really appreciate all of you coming this morning, because it was a simple ask late yesterday and everyone was yes. And so I'm grateful, because our community needs to know. And I understand the questions and concerns, because that old game of telephone, they start ringing each other, literally, sometimes, and or just flowing through the community, and there's a lot of misinformation.
And I apologize, but I'm going to ask one of those questions based upon reactions I've had in the past on my Facebook. So if you could just reiterate, no majority race means there is an equal amount of white and African American students at a school?
It means that within that
Or
school
white,
site,
African American, and Latino
and
students
perhaps,
at a school?
yes, perhaps Hispanic, Asian, etc. So,
Okay.
For example, J.S. Oakland Elementary, they have a majority race that is a majority demographic of Hispanic and Asian students. That's almost 78 to 79%. And in our case, that's not a reference. It needs to be a majority white or black. And again, those are terms that I'm required to use, and I've never gotten really comfortable with constantly talking about that, to be quite frank, because that's not the world I live in, but this is our case, and our children are our children.
You mentioned impact on school resource officers and a little bit on transportation. It says something about the scale of this, what it requires for the district. I mean, there's going to be a lot of impact on employees and a lot of extra work for people, is there not?
That's a great question, statement. Yes, we knew that, which is why we're trying to do the time frame that we're doing. I mean, it's never going to be ideal, and we do have leak testing coming up particularly strongly in May. So we were hoping to get this gathered as much as possible for office staff and those, because that's who it's impacting the most right now. We are going to offer perhaps some extra time and giving them monetary value for what they're doing, because it is going to take extra time. It may take some weekend work, but our SROs in particular, they have been in the last few days doing lots of home visits, and some of them, most of them, we have found that there's been some truth in some of the concerns and some of them not. And then I think that's where you get the reactions on social media, is when people have been told that unfortunately we know that the documents you have presented are not accurate.
Again, this
Is
is
there a
also
price tag attached to it that you know about? Is this
I really don't know. I mean, honestly, it's just part of the day in which we have to. It's just a shift of what people are doing and their responsibilities more so than a price tag. It will be a price tag for perhaps our secretarial staff and bookkeepers that we ask to come in on Saturdays to work for us and help us getting through the documents, and our administrators but our administrators are exempt employees, so that's why you see them at every event and all those kinds of things. They're hardworking individuals.
one of the things I don't know, you may have talked about as far as legal guardianship and custody. Now you have more grandparents who are, filling the role of parents. Will that also be taken into consideration?
At this point, no, but what that will allow us to do is get a list of those families in which it does impact. So from there, we can make decisions, again, working with legal team, et cetera, to determine how to best approach that situation. Because we do have some families that perhaps, we call it doubling up. Legitimately, they have doubled up for years. Like, that's just how that family functions, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I grew up in the same kind of manner. But people who do that actually have documents still that show they live at that residency, and that has been a long term. Our homeless students, we do have homeless students, but homelessness is more of a temporary situation, and that you do not have an everyday place to lay your head at night. So that's not doubling up, that's a different thing.
What about situations where parents are able to utilize the services of aftercare, and then their children have to transfer to a school that does not offer aftercare?
That unfortunately is just a part of the process.
Okay.
And so aftercare would, just like any other parent, you would have to determine where that aftercare would be.
Did you want to do a closing statement, Dr. Feganbush?
I'd like to. I do understand that this is a shift, maybe not so much in practice, but just in how we're practicing it, and how we're approaching it. I do realize that we will have some special circumstances, and again, those hardship papers are available for people who need them. But as a whole, we are having very little problems, and I feel like that once we truly get it, because this is not even April 3rd yet, but we have a lot of people already, oh, here's my documents, because they're readily available, and so they're coming in. But as we work through this process, we do just ask for a little grace, because it is a process. If someone has a concern or whatever about someone else's residency or the process that we're doing, it's going to take us a month or two to get through this. We have over 7,000 something children, right? 7,500 kids. So you just don't do that in an evening. It just doesn't happen that way. So we ask for patience. We do receive any concerns and questions. They are logged. We do have people who are going through and responding to that. So we do ask people to work with us and understand. And if you do have questions, it's best to reach out and ask us. And I feel like we're the ones who can best answer those questions for people.
How many SROs do you have in this system?
Right now, actively,
Yes, ma'am.
we have 6. But we have a total, of 7, but we have.
All right, I'm Danica Long with KWBJ, and we just went live with Dr. Buffy.
And that will wrap up our coverage right here at the St. Mary Parish School Board Central Office Complex, as we've been speaking with the St. Mary Parish School Superintendent, Dr. Buffy Feganbush. I'm Brady Borrell for KQKI News, your local news leader.
And this kind of accountability.
This must have been